Hey everybody, this is the story of how to integrate a responsibility with forgiveness and is the integration of the Chilson Philosophy into my daily life, a foundation to individualism. For years I was a prisoner. My cell was an act of betrayal by my father, and the resentment I carried was the poison I drank every day. My own mind was my guard. I could feel it ruining every other good thing in my life. I felt trapped, bouncing between demanding accountability and just finding my own peace. This is the story of how I finally did both. It's how I learned to integrate culpability and use forgiveness together, not to let them off the hook, but to finally set myself free. The world of resentment, it's a huge, heavy thing to carry, isn't it? That feeling of being wronged. It has a physical weight. For me, it all started with a single moment. A line crossed so deeply that it completely redrew the entire map of my family. I won't drag you through the details because if you're watching this, you have your own stories. You have your own betrayals. You have your own traumas. You already know what it feels like. The specifics of my pain aren't as important as the shape of it. The shock, the anger, and the profound sadness of being hurt by someone who was supposed to have your back. In the beginning, the anger felt like a shield. It felt righteous, like the only sane response. Years went by, and that shield started to feel more like a cage. The anger I had for that one person started seeping into my everyday life. Everything else, like a slow-acting venom. And then a stray thought would hit me, and I'd be cold, and nobody would recognize me. Nobody would see me. I'd be invisible. I wasn't really there. And sometimes I'd just snap on people, get into fights, beat people up for no reason, or have a reason, and just go really overboard. The world started to feel like an unsafe place. If my dad can do this, who else could? I became guarded, suspicious, awaiting the shoe to drop, other people to do it. That bitterness was like a constant low-grade fever that I'd gotten so used to. I almost forgot what it felt like to be healthy. Holding on to that grudge didn't just hurt the relationship with my other family members. It was poisoning my other relationships. It was poisoning myself, my friends. I must have replayed the betrayal in my mind 1,000 times, each time looking for a new angle, a new piece of evidence to justify my rage. It was exhausting. I was stuck in a loop of wanting justice, of needing them to understand the depth of what they've done. But the cost of the crusade was my own peace. It was like I was drinking poison, expecting the other person to die when they were already dead. I was the only one suffering. The resentment wasn't protecting me anymore. It was consuming me. I had to find a way out. I spent weeks alone at the park near my house, alone in thought, just staring at the mountains and thinking. The turning point, my breaking point, wasn't some dramatic explosion. It was a quiet, almost heartbreaking moment. I was driving in my car listening to Linkin Park. Nothing really matters. Great song. I realized I was at a pit of despair, and everything I did only made it deeper. The light was gone. It had been snuffed out by years of simmering anger. In that moment I knew I could either keep going down this road and lose myself completely, or I could find another way. That's when I started to build what I now call the Chilson Philosophy. It's nothing you can find in a book. It's not from some guru. I named it after me. It's my blueprint. It's a personal framework I pieced together out of sheer necessity. Betrayal after betrayal, death after death, pain after pain, suffering after suffering. And from some brutal self-honesty. It's built on two ideas that seem to contradict each other. Assigning responsibility and elective forgiveness. These are the first two steps, okay? The first pillar is assigning responsibility. This was the part I needed to feel sane again. It meant looking at the situation with total clarity and putting the responsibility exactly where it belonged. It meant I had to say without an apology, what I did was wrong, what you did was wrong. It wasn't some simple misunderstanding. It wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal. It is important to become very good at this, to be able to break down situations and accept that responsibility for your part in any situation. Acknowledging that is crucial because it validates the hurt. This part took me 15 years to get to. I was 17-ish at the time. I had just gotten back from boot camp in the Army between my junior and senior year of high school. The Army gave me a new tool to accept all that responsibility and own it, or give it away to who really deserves it. The second pillar in elective forgiveness. This is the part that sets you free. After I had firmly assigned responsibility, I had a realization. Forgiveness wasn't something the other person had to earn. It was a transaction. It was a choice. And it was entirely mine to make. Forgiveness is in my philosophy. It isn't about condoning what happened or letting the other person off the hook. It's an act of self-liberation. It's about willfully putting down that resentment because you decide your future is more important than your painful past. It's a conscious decision to stop carrying all that weight. I choose to forgive. Not for them, but for me. It's all me. I'm number one. You're number one in your world. I choose to stop drinking the poison. Forgiveness, for its part, doesn't mean you pretend that the offenses didn't happen. It means you see the full scope of it. The step gave me my power. I wasn't a passive victim. I was someone who had been wronged, and I was allowed to say so. It drew a firm line in the sand, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Of course, understanding this was one thing. Living it was another. It was messy. Winding road filled with setbacks. Drugs, alcoholism, chasing women, friends that always had my worst interests at heart. My first step was to consciously separate the two pillars in my mind. I would literally tell myself, I acknowledge that what they did was profound betrayal, and they are responsible for that harm. And for my own well-being, I am choosing to let go of the anger that I carry around. Some days that felt incredibly empowering. Some days it felt impossible. The anger would flare up and I'd feel that old familiar pull of wanting to be right, of wanting them to hurt as much as I did. In those moments, I had to learn to just be patient with myself. Healing is not a straight line. And there are some days you might go 2 steps forward and some days 2 steps back, 4 steps back. It's about consistency. A huge part of this was learning to sit still with the comfort. It meant letting me feel everything, not just the anger, but the deep sadness, the grief that was hiding underneath it. I had to grieve the relationship I thought I had. I had to grieve the trust that was shattered. By letting myself feel the sadness, the anger started to lose some of its power. I also worked to understand their perspective, not to excuse it. This is a really delicate step. Okay? It wasn't about justifying what they did. It was about seeing them as a flawed human being who, for their own complicated reasons, made a terrible choice. That did not change the facts, but it helped to depersonalize the pain just a little. It shifted from being an attack on my very soul to an action taken by a person with their own problems. My first real win was a small one. I was telling a friend a story that tangibly involved my father. In the past, I would have used this as an opportunity to drop a bitter comment or a dark joke about the betrayal. But this time, I just told the story and moved on. It was a moment of silence where a storm of resentment used to live. I felt a lightness in my chest I hadn't felt in years. It was proof that this was actually working. I was choosing peace one small moment at a time. When you respond to people and you do not justify your response, when you talk to someone and you do not justify what you say, you just state your comment and you leave it. Leave what you said on the table. That is accepting responsibility in real time. You don't have to fight with people over everything being said. Today, my life looks completely different. Not because the past changed, but because I have. The space in my head that used to be occupied by replaying old hurts and planning imaginary arguments is now quite free. It's quiet. The energy has been returned to me, and I can invest it in the people and the passions that actually bring me joy. My relationship with my wife is deeper because I'm fully present. The emotional armor I wore for so long has been shut down, and that allows for a level of intimacy that was just impossible when I was constantly on guard. My friendships are non-existent now because, well, I don't deal with bullshit, and that is okay, honestly. I have no desire for others in my life. I am incredibly happy alone, and while being alone used to recharge me, and still does, but being with my family also recharges me now. It makes me incredibly happy. I love more freely. I listen better. That constant low-grade fever of resentment is gone, and what's left is a sense of calm, wellness that has improved my mental state and even my physical health. The betrayal is still a scar. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means the memory is no longer has power over me and power to wound me. That scar is part of my story now, a reminder of my own resilience, my own capacity for growth. The Chilson Philosophy let me do something I once thought was impossible. Hold two truths at the same time. The truth that I was deeply wrong and the truth that I am no longer defined by that wound. Assigning responsibility honored my past. Elective forgiveness freed my future, and now I walk in both. So, if there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate act of reclaiming your power and stating without any reconciliation that they no longer hold any power over you. It's a declaration that you will no longer let someone else's actions control your emotional state. It's choosing to heal yourself instead of waiting for an apology that might never come. If you're watching this and you're carrying the weight of betrayal, please know that your pain is valid. Your anger is justified. We all heal at our own paces. No one is faster. No one is better. It just is. You have every right to feel everything that you are feeling. No one can rush your journey, and you don't have to do anything you're not ready for. This journey is extraordinarily personal, and it took a lot of time. We feel that we're walking it alone. If you feel comfortable, share a part of your own story or a lesson you've learned about forgiveness in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can see we're not the only ones. And if this story resonated with you, think about subscribing for more reflections on finding peace in difficult situations. My final thoughts. My story is just that, one story. It's a story of me. You have your story of you. It's a map. Mine is a map of how I found my way out of a dark forest. Your path might look different, but I offer my story as proof that the path does exist. Peace is possible. Healing is possible. Remember, letting go isn't about forgetting what they did. It's about remembering who you are, separate from your pain. And you are so worthy of all the peace that you want. Have a nice day. Bye.